This is just a quick reminder of the tour through the heart, tracing the flow of blood through all 4 chambers. It's commonly divided in 2, the right side carrying deoxygenated blood and the left side carrying oxygenated blood. The right side pumping blood on the pulmonary loop or pulmonary pathway heading to the lungs and back, and the left side pumping blood on the systemic and coronary pathways, either to everywhere in the body or to the heart's own muscle tissue. So starting with a red blood cell somewhere in the body, that red blood cell might be coming from the head, the arms, somewhere above the heart, in which case it would be coming in through this vessel. If it's coming in through a pathway that involves your liver or your kidneys or your legs or anywhere below your heart, it would be coming in through this blood vessel. So the one on the top is called the superior vena cava. That's this one right here. And the one on the bottom is called the inferior vena cava. They both take blood in to this chamber right here. I'm just writing in number 3. 1 would be superior vena cava, 2 would be the inferior vena cava. And structure number 3 is the first chamber of the heart. It's called the right atrium. It's on the right side. That blood cell, it's not this big, by the way. This is way too big to be a proper blood cell, goes into the right atrium, and the right atrium is going to, at some point, squeeze. When it squeezes, that will be due to a signal, an electrical signal from a structure right around here called the sinoatrial node. I'm going to stop labeling things with numbers because I realize at this point in time I'm not going to keep that up. The sinoatrial node is a structure right here that creates an electrical signal that impacts not only this atrial muscle tissue, but also the muscle tissue of the left atrium as well. Both atria contract at the same time. When the sinoatrial node sends its signal on an EKG or an ECG, that would be the P part of the wave. A smaller blip that says time for the atria to contract. After that, the blood will come down into the next chamber, but first it will pass these structures. Did not mean to do that. Please come back. Thank you. These structures here, this one and this one, they are, there's 3 of them actually, they are flaps of tissue. They are a valve that lets blood flow through only in one direction. So it can't come back, but it can go through from atrium to ventricle. That valve is called the right atrioventricular valve, and sometimes it's called the tricuspid because it has 3 little flaps or teeth. It's held in place by these little string-like structures called the chordae tendineae. Once that blood is in the right ventricle is going to squeeze as well. It's going to squeeze due to a signal from the atrioventricular node, which is somewhere around here. Maybe I'll do these both in green because these are green texts. The atrioventricular node is going to send an electrical signal to the ventricles, but it's not in a ventricle. First, that signal has to go down the center of the heart. This structure that this area right here that everything is passing through is called the septum. It separates the left and the right ventricles. But this bundle of nerves is called the bundle of His. This is a name, nothing to do with sound or gender. Those nerve tissues have endings buried in the muscles of both the left and the right ventricles, and they are called the Purkinje fibers. The Purkinje fibers are what activate your ventricles, causing them to squeeze. That happens here in the QRS section of your EKG. Once your ventricle squeezes, that blood, red blood cell, white blood cell, whatever it is going to go not back the wrong way because it can't, but through this valve. This valve is a valve called the right semilunar valve. Semilunar due to its shape, that's this valve right here. And the blood is going to be directed this way, not back, due to the shape of it. That blood cell will now be in an artery called the pulmonary trunk, or we could call it maybe the pulmonary artery. It will immediately split into two paths. That blood can either go out to the left lung or underneath the aorta through a little tunnel there, out to the right lung. One of those paths will take it to one of your lungs, just one. So the left and the right pulmonary arteries are taking blood away from the heart under high pressure. They have thick walls like all arteries do. That blood cell it's a red blood cell, reach the alveoli around the capillaries around your alveoli and drop off some CO2 if it has any, and pick up any oxygen that it can. It will then return. If it's coming back from the right lung, it'll go through one of these two pulmonary veins, or maybe one of these two pulmonary veins. Depends on which side it's coming from. The left and the right pulmonary veins. These are thinner blood vessels under lower pressure. It's going to then go into the left atrium, and the same kind of steps will be happening to it as happened on the right side. So first we have a signal from the sinoatrial node. That is the P part of your EKG. That signal is going to cause the atria to squeeze. It'll go past an atrioventricular valve. Here it's called the left atrioventricular valve, but it's also got two other names. It might be called the bicuspid, or it might be called the mitral valve. They all mean the same thing. Left atrioventricular valve is nice because it tells you left side of the heart between the atrium and the ventricle. I think it's a perfect name. That blood will then go into the left ventricle. In the left ventricle, the same thing is going to happen as before. On the right side and the left side, it's the same things happening for the same reasons. The atrial ventricular node will fire. Signal will go down the bundle of His, which is in the septum, and end in the Purkinje fibers. And then that blood will be forced. So it's come in here, or maybe in here. It's gone into this atrium, it's gone through to the ventricle, and now it will be forced out this valve over here. So this valve right here, I'll do it in purple, is called the left semilunar valve, sometimes called the aortic valve because it leads to the aorta. So that blood cell will go past that valve underneath the pulmonary trunk. It's hard to draw, but that's where it'll go, and into the last blood vessel of the heart called the aorta. So blood leaving the heart here is going to the lungs, and blood leaving the heart from the aorta is going either to the heart itself on the coronary pathway, or to anywhere else in the body, to your brain, to your legs, to your feet, to your pinky, wherever. The one thing we haven't mentioned yet here is this part of the ECG, which is the T part of the wave. This is relaxation. All four chambers of the heart, both of your atria and both of your ventricles, are relaxed at this point, so blood can fill it. Blood is under low pressure coming in, either through the superior or inferior vena cava, or through the pulmonary veins. Low pressure blood, so we need lots of relaxation so that the blood can go in there easily. This cycle repeats and repeats and repeats. Hopefully this is something that is helpful for you.